A philosopher who died insane asked the most important question of your life. He imagined a demon appearing before you tonight. Before you can scream, it speaks. You will live this exact life again, an infinite number of times. Every joy, every failure, every time you scrolled through your phone at 2 a.m. instead of sleeping, every awkward conversation, every moment of pain, repeated forever. No escape, no variation. This life, on loop, eternally. The demon stares at you, waiting. Would you thank it or curse it? If your gut reaction was horror, and for most people it is, here's what that reveals. You're not living the life you actually want. Not because your circumstances are uniquely terrible, but because of the story you're telling about those circumstances. That thought experiment came from Friedrich Nietzsche, who died 125 years ago after predicting exactly why modern society would become anxious, depressed, and desperate for meaning. And he understood something that explains why some people build empires while others with better circumstances accomplish nothing. Between facts and their meaning sits something crucial: interpretation. Whether you control that consciously or let others control it for you determines everything. But here's the warning up front. Nietzsche's philosophy, taken wrong, justifies cruelty, isolation, and contempt. We're going to explore what he got right and what nearly destroyed him. Because the goal isn't to worship Nietzsche, it's to understand the pattern he identified, the pattern that explains why delusional people keep winning. September 1942. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist from Vienna, arrives at Auschwitz. The Nazis strip him of everything. He becomes prisoner, 119,104. Within days, he notices something that saves his life. The prisoners are creating different interpretations of identical hell. Some tell themselves, this will end soon. Others say, God is testing us. Still others say, every man for himself. Same facts, different stories, completely different survival rates. Frankl realized the space between what happens to you and how you respond, that's where interpretation lives. And in the most extreme conditions imaginable, interpretation determined who lived and who gave up. This is what Nietzsche had been screaming about 60 years earlier. Nietzsche writes about a madman who runs into a marketplace shouting, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. The crowd thinks he's crazy. But Nietzsche isn't talking about theology. He's diagnosing something that explains your life right now. For thousands of years, Western culture had a master story that assigned meaning to everything. Why are we here? What should we do? When you lost that story, you didn't just lose religion. You lost the interpretive framework that made facts meaningful. You were left with raw reality and no idea what any of it means. Look at what happened. Depression diagnoses have increased dramatically since the 1950s, whether from actual prevalence, better recognition, or changing diagnostic criteria. The result is millions struggling with meaning. Anxiety disorders show similar patterns with lifetime prevalence affecting nearly a third of people. And in 2026, we're drowning in new meaninglessness, social media comparison loops, AI threatening job security, the impossibility of affording a home, climate anxiety, political polarization. Same world. Everyone interprets it differently. Some people are paralyzed. Others are building. Here's the pattern most people miss. The most dangerous delusion isn't optimism or pessimism. It's thinking you're objective. The people who claim to just see reality as it is, they're the most deluded. Because they're blind to their own interpretive framework. They think they're lions, free and independent. They're actually camels carrying interpretations someone else loaded onto their backs. Back in Auschwitz, Frankl watched prisoners argue about who's being realistic. Some said, face facts, we're all going to die here. They thought they were objective. They were just choosing an interpretation, and that interpretation led to death. Nietzsche called this perspectivism. All human knowledge is viewed through interpretive lenses. His famous line, there are no facts, only interpretations, doesn't mean objective reality doesn't exist. It means facts exist, but their significance is something you create. Think about someone who interprets every setback as proof they're worthless. Now think about someone who interprets setbacks as information. Identical circumstances. One person becomes weaker, the other stronger. The difference isn't the facts, it's the meaning assigned to those facts, and most people give that power away without even knowing it exists. Nietzsche made a distinction that explains almost everything about success and failure. He called it master morality versus slave morality. Terrible names, but the pattern is everywhere. Watch for this pattern. Successful people are probably miserable. People who chase money are shallow. Ambitious people sacrifice what matters. Notice what's happening? These aren't objective observations. These are interpretations that protect ego while maintaining weakness. Nietzsche called this slave morality. It's when circumstances determine interpretations. Someone doesn't achieve financial success, so they interpret money as corrupting. They lack power, so they interpret the powerful as evil. They're not choosing interpretations based on growth. They're constructing interpretations that make them feel better about limitations. The prisoners who survived Auschwitz weren't the ones obsessing over the guards' evil. They were the ones finding interpretations that restored agency. I can't control them, but I can control my response. Master morality is different. It's when interpretations are deliberately selected to affirm life rather than justify staying small. Think about Steve Jobs. The objective fact was that computers were beige office tools. He chose to interpret them as instruments of human creativity and beauty. People called him delusional. He called it vision. The difference? Conscious interpretation versus unconscious acceptance. Here's what this looks like right now. LinkedIn is a laboratory of unconscious interpretation. Scroll through and you'll see two types of posts. Type 1. I'm grinding 80 hours a week, hustling, no days off. These people interpret exhaustion as virtue. They're not examining whether this serves them. They've accepted the framework that visible suffering equals value. Type 2. Hustle culture is toxic. I'm prioritizing balance. Often this is just the inverse delusion, interpreting leisure as enlightenment to avoid admitting they're afraid to build something difficult. Both are unconscious. Both are performing interpretations someone else wrote. Dating apps reveal the same pattern. Talk to someone who's been single for years and they'll have a story. All women just want tall guys with money. All men just want young hot girls. These interpretations protect ego. They make rejection about everyone else, not about taking responsibility for what could change. Are those interpretations true? Doesn't matter. The question is, does that interpretation make you stronger or weaker? Does it increase agency or remove it? Crypto and tech culture is full of delusional people who win. When Bitcoin was $1, saying it would hit $100,000 seemed insane. The people who believed that weren't denying facts. They were consciously choosing an interpretation of emerging technology that others rejected. Were they right because they were smarter? No. They were right because they chose an interpretation and acted on it while realistic people chose a different interpretation and did nothing. Nietzsche's insight: that realistic person isn't more objective. They're just unconscious of their own interpretive framework. Here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Take your major goals right now. Where do they come from? Were they chosen based on what you genuinely want, or based on what someone in your position is supposed to want? Test. If you achieved these goals but couldn't tell anyone, couldn't post about it, couldn't add it to a resume, no one would ever know. Would you still want them? If the answer is no, you're living under an interpretation you didn't choose. You're a camel, carrying someone else's meaning. Nietzsche wrote about this as the Eternal Recurrence. If you had to repeat your life infinitely, would you choose it? Not someday when things are better. This life, this interpretation, this meaning. Most people would say no, not because their circumstances are so terrible, but because they're living interpretations that make them weak. Frankl, lying on wooden boards in Auschwitz, made a choice. He found a way to interpret his suffering as an opportunity to observe human nature under the most extreme conditions imaginable. He turned hell into research. That's not denying the horror. That's consciously choosing what it means. When we are no longer able to change a situation, Frankl wrote, We are challenged to change ourselves. But Nietzsche's philosophy, for all its power, was incomplete. He mapped the territory of conscious interpretation with genius, but his own journey through that territory ended in disaster. His personal story reveals the critical element his philosophy dangerously undervalued, an element that would later save Viktor Frankl's life. January 1889. Nietzsche sees a horse being beaten in Turin. He runs to it, throws his arms around its neck, and collapses. He never recovers his sanity. The cause was almost certainly neurological disease, possibly a brain tumor. He would spend his last 11 years unable to write, unable to recognize friends, dying in 1900 at age 55. He never got to see how his ideas would reshape the world. His work would be twisted by his sister Elizabeth, who edited passages to align with Nazi ideology. A complete betrayal of everything he actually wrote about individual self-creation. And there's something his philosophy dangerously underemphasized. Nietzsche was brilliant at showing us how to consciously interpret reality. But in his focus on the sovereign individual, on breaking from the herd, he didn't give enough weight to genuine connection. Modern psychology has now caught up. Empathy and secure relationships aren't weaknesses that undermine conscious interpretation. They're fuel for it. Here's the danger we need to address. Someone discovers they can choose their own interpretations. They start seeing everyone else's unconscious frameworks. They feel like they've woken up while everyone else sleeps. Then they use this awareness to justify treating others like garbage. They call it master morality. It's just cruelty with intellectual decoration. They end up isolated, bitter, convinced everyone else is weak. They become the weakest version of what Nietzsche described. Breaking from unconscious interpretation takes courage. Solomon Asch's conformity experiments showed people will literally deny obvious facts to maintain group acceptance. But here's what matters. Rejecting inherited meanings doesn't require rejecting people. This is where Viktor Frankl completes what Nietzsche began. April 1945. The Americans liberate Frankl's camp. He weighs 80 pounds. His wife is dead. His mother is dead. His brother is dead. He has every reason to interpret his experience as pure loss. Instead, Frankl does something remarkable. He takes Nietzsche's insight about conscious interpretation and adds the missing element. Meaning is most powerful when it connects you to others, not separates you from them. Within a year, he rewrites his manuscript from memory. Man's search for meaning. His central insight: humans can choose the meaning they assign to what happens, and that meaning is strongest when it serves something beyond yourself: love, contribution, helping others find their own meaning. He would live to 92, spending decades teaching, helping millions, not isolated, surrounded by those he served. Both men were delusional in the best sense. They refused to accept default interpretations of reality. They consciously chose meanings that affirmed life and possibility. The difference? Frankl discovered that conscious interpretation doesn't require isolation. You can create your own meanings and value deep connection. That's not weakness. That's what makes it sustainable. Nietzsche gave us the tool. Frankl showed us how to use it without destroying ourselves. Now, let's be brutally honest. Understanding this doesn't make you enlightened. Most people hearing this will feel inspired for an afternoon and change nothing by tomorrow. If you're one of the few who will actually maintain this awareness, you need to know how to spot unconscious interpretation in yourself and avoid the isolation trap. So, how do you recognize unconscious interpretation in yourself? Watch for 3 patterns. First, moralization of preferences. When you catch yourself thinking, people who do X are shallow, greedy, fake, pause. Ask, is this observation or justification? Usually it's protecting ego from having to try something difficult, a realistic observation. Wealth requires taking risks I'm not currently willing to take. A resentment interpretation. Rich people are greedy. Same circumstance. One maintains agency, one removes it. Second, comfort disguised as realism. When you tell yourself, be realistic, what you often mean is stay comfortable. That's not objectivity. That's an interpretation pretending to be a fact. The person who says starting a business is too risky isn't being more objective than the person who starts one. They're choosing an interpretation that prioritizes security. That's fine, but call it what it is. It's not reality. It's a choice. Third, contempt disguised as clarity. You start seeing other people's unconscious interpretations everywhere. You feel like you've woken up while everyone else sleeps. That feeling? It's often just trading one cage for another. You've moved from herd mentality to isolated superiority. Different interpretation, same unconsciousness. Nietzsche showed you how to see interpretations. Frankl showed you that power doesn't require isolation. The question, does this interpretation increase your agency or remove it? That's the only test that matters. The demon is still asking, you will live this life again, infinite times, every moment repeated eternally. Would you thank it or curse it? Nietzsche died before witnessing how his insight would reshape philosophy and psychology. He mapped the territory of conscious interpretation with genius, but his own journey through it ended in tragedy. Viktor Frankl took that same insight into the worst hell imaginable and emerged with what Nietzsche's philosophy was missing: the recognition that conscious interpretation is most powerful when it serves something beyond ego, when it connects you to purpose, to contribution, to others. One man forged the tool. The other demonstrated how to wield it completely. Why is being delusional a superpower? Because the people who claim to just see reality as it is are the most deluded. They're blind to their own interpretive frameworks. They're unconscious while believing they're objective. The superpower is recognizing you're always interpreting. You're always choosing which aspects of reality to center, which meanings to assign, which story to tell. Most people make these choices unconsciously, following frameworks they inherited and never examined. Some people make them consciously and become isolated, treating awareness as justification for contempt. The smallest group makes them consciously while understanding that power doesn't require isolation. Right now, you're interpreting what I'm saying. Some of you think this is dangerous. Some think this explains everything. Some think, I already knew this. Same words, different meanings, all created by you. Some of you will forget this within hours, others will maintain the awareness, catching resentment-based interpretations, noticing when being realistic means staying comfortable. That awareness is the only edge that exists. Nietzsche asked if you could affirm your life exactly as it is, repeated eternally. Frankl demonstrated that you're most likely to answer yes when your interpretations serve something beyond protecting ego. The demon is asking right now, what's your answer? And are you living in a way that makes that answer honest?